Welcome one and all to this week's episode of This Week in the Force. If you're new to this show, this is a weekly show where I go down a list of articles found on Star Wars Newsnet, and then I tell you what my opinion is on them and what I think they mean. And then I ask you what you think about it so we can get a conversation started and spread our love of Star Wars throughout the galaxy. Now, with no more hesitation and the Force behind us, let's get this thing started. And our first few articles today, of course, are about Star Wars The Last Jedi. This week in particular, we got a lot of news. These first couple of articles talk about characters instead of Star Wars. I'm talking about Luke, I'm talking about Poe, I'm talking about Laura Dern's new character, Amilyn Holdo, and we got some more news about these creatures known as the Fathiers. If you guys don't know what they look like, here they are on screen. They're kind of a mixture of what you would get if you mixed a horse with some kind of sheepish creature. Also, I do want to touch on this article with Laura Dern, because in it, there's not only a clip where Laura Dern is talking with Ellen DeGeneres on her show Ellen about Star Wars, about getting into the show, but in this article, she also talks about what it was like to work with the late and great Carrie Fisher. R.I.P. Carrie Fisher, of course. But what Laura Dern has to say about Carrie Fisher in this article, I'm gonna be honest, it brought me to tears. And the reason for that is because Laura Dern mentions what it was like to work with Carrie Fisher, the one person who helped bring around great female leads when it comes to film and in the film industry when there was barely any around when Princess Leia came about. Dern also says in this article that characters like Amilyn Holdo would not have materialized if characters like Leia and Carrie Fisher had never been around. The article also delves into Amilyn Holdo and Princess Leia's relationship found in Leia, Princess of Alderaan, written by Claudia Gray, and if you haven't checked that book out, I highly recommend it. Not just a great Star Wars book, but a really great novel overall. Now, this next article I'm actually really excited to talk about because Looper by director Rian Johnson is one of my all-time favorite sci-fis, and this article on Star Wars Newsnet just goes and breaks down what is the comparison and differences between Looper and Star Wars. And I'm telling you, there are some really, really key and interesting insights in this one article. The article also pins the fact that there might be some story elements from Looper that might go into The Last Jedi. It's just a really interesting read. Also, we got another video that shows some behind the scenes footage of The Last Jedi, gives some brief story elements, and also that lovely Star Wars speculation. And guys, as always, I'll leave several links in the description down below, so if you want to go check those articles out on Star Wars Newsnet yourself to get more in-depth detail of what they have to say, you can go do that. But with all of this news about Star Wars The Last Jedi, with what Laura Dern said, with all this speculation and news, I want to get your thoughts on it. Are you excited for The Last Jedi? And what is your speculation of The Last Jedi? Do you think it could be like Looper? Do you think it could not be like Looper? Whatever you may think, leave a comment down below or head over to Twitter so we can start that conversation and start getting some questions asked. Alright, now let's move on to what J.J. Abrams had to say about Episode 9 and how it's going to be different. J.J. Abrams was being interviewed by the British Broadcasting Company, and of course, because he's involved with Star Trek and Star Wars, he got asked some questions about where Star Wars is going forward considering he's directing Episode 9. And this is what J.J. Abrams had to say. Well, it's certainly something that I'm aware of now working on Episode 9. Coming back into this world after having done Episode 7, I feel like we need to approach this with the same kind of excitement that we had when we were kids, loving what these movies were. And at the same time, we have to take them places that they haven't gone. And that's sort of our responsibility. Yet we can't just revel in that. We have to go elsewhere. Honestly, I love this statement. J.J. Abrams is absolutely correct. If we want Star Wars to get better and better, it's gotta go elsewhere. It's gotta be different. And now that J.J. Abrams is back and he realizes that Episode 9 has gotta be different to move the series forward, I'm just happy that he is directing the film. Okay, I didn't talk about this last week, but the Han Solo film has come out with its title. It's called Solo, A Star Wars Story. Honestly, I'm not one to judge a book by its cover, so while I think the movie title is kind of pathetic, I do think that the movie movie will be good, because I have a lot of faith in Ron Howard. Alright, and the last thing we're going to talk about today is another recap of the newest episodes of Star Wars Rebels. This week's episodes were named In the Name of the Rebellion, and it dealt a lot with Saw Gerrera. I'm not going to go into full depth here. I'll leave a link up there so you can go check out my review of the episodes, because I put them up every week. But I will say that these two episodes were like the Empire Strikes Back of Star Wars Rebels for me. They were so well done. They did everything right. The animation was great, the performances were great, it built up the characters the way the characters should be built up, and it gave us some more insight about what the Empire is up to. And on that note of the Rebellion versus the Empire, I got another book recommendation for you, and it's called Rebel Rising. If you guys watched Rogue One and you're like, you know, Jyn Erso's cool, don't really know that much about her, the characters are kind of poorly developed, I want to know more about Jyn Erso, because she is by far the most interesting character, then this is the book for you. I admit the character development inside of Rogue One was kind of pathetic, but Rebel Rising is a coming-of-age story, but don't let that deter you, because it's all about Jyn's upbringing with Saw Gerrera, and let me tell you, this book goes into some really, really dark places of what Saw Gerrera made Jyn do, what Jyn decided to do to work for Saw Gerrera, and basically everything that she'd known when it comes to fighting the Empire. And let me tell you, this is probably the most adult Star Wars novel I think I've read so far, and it is fantastic. And that should about wrap us up. And guys, if you have any questions or statements about any of the articles that we've talked about here today, head over to Twitter, head down to the comments section down below, saying what your thoughts are. More importantly though, if you're new to this channel and you like what you've seen here, don't be afraid to press that subscribe button and tap the bell notification so you'll know when more content and more specifically, new episodes of this show will be up. And as always everybody, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, may the Force be with you, and I'll see you all next week.